I'm so glad you're here. If you're watching this video, please like and subscribe to my channel and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from. I want to know how far this story has traveled. It all started one night when I got into my husband's car, and something caught my eye in the glove compartment, a tube of personal lubricant. My first instinct was to say something, confront him right there, but I didn't. Instead, I replaced it with something far more sinister: industrial superglue. What happened next? Well, let's just say it caused a huge scene, and our neighbors had to call the fire department. But that's just the beginning of my story. For years, I'd lived a life that seemed perfect. My husband Julian was a steady presence in my life. But that night, I felt a cold wind of suspicion sweeping through our home. Julian had just returned from another one of his late business dinners, looking not exhausted, but haunted. The way he tossed his jacket on the sofa and collapsed onto the bed, too tired to even shower, felt like a performance. But the real clue was the faint, floral perfume clinging to him, mixing with his expensive cologne. As I moved around the house, tidying up, I noticed something on his phone. He never used email. In fact, he'd always scoffed at technology, preferring calls over messages. But there it was, an email sitting open on his phone. Its subject chilling: "You were incredible tonight, Dad," followed by a red heart. Who called him that? And why did it feel like a slap to my face? I swiped down, hoping for answers, but all I found was an email address that made no sense. The silence in the house felt heavier, thicker, as if something I couldn't see was lurking in every corner. My heart raced as I continued to clean, now with robotic movements. I grabbed his jacket, and inside the pocket, I found something that would shatter the quiet and expensive restaurant receipt from a fancy steakhouse in San Antonio. Dated that very night. San Antonio. He told me he was meeting with partners in Dallas. That tiny bitter laugh escaped me. He hated driving to Dallas. But San Antonio, that was where his late mother had lived. The receipt showed a dinner for two, a bottle of expensive wine, and 2 main courses of filet and pasta, something he'd once taken me to on our 10th anniversary. A memory I thought was sacred. But now, it was a lie. I couldn't let it go. I took a picture of the receipt, the email, everything. I had to know the truth. That's when I decided to search his car. And that's when I found it: a tube of used personal lubricant with dried residue on the cap. Julian and I hadn't been intimate in years. He always said he was too tired. That age had taken its toll. But this wasn't for me. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a confession of something I wasn't ready to face. I felt paralyzed, yet somehow I couldn't stop. I gathered more evidence: napkins soaked in a sweet floral perfume, not his, not mine. The more I found, the clearer the truth became. This wasn't just about an affair. It was a whole hidden life. I took pictures, documented everything. I needed to know what was really going on, even if it broke my heart. The next morning, Julian seemed the same. He gave me his usual tired, rehearsed line: "I have an important meeting today. I'll be late." I didn't question him, didn't confront him. I just nodded, pretending everything was fine, while inside, my world was crumbling. That's when I called Mrs. Miller. She'd once told me about a private investigator, Thomas, who could help. I'd never imagined I'd be in a situation like this. But now, I needed answers. By the afternoon, I was sitting in a cafe, handing Thomas everything I had: photos, receipts, and that strange email. He promised to start his investigation immediately and keep me posted. Days passed. I stayed at the bakery, trying to distract myself with work. But my mind was always on Julian. What was he doing? Who was he with? Finally, the answers came. A photo from Thomas, showing Julian entering a fancy restaurant with none other than Allison, my daughter-in-law. My heart sank. They were holding hands. I zoomed in. It wasn't just a family dinner. This was something much more intimate. How could they? How could he? The next morning, I found more photos, more damning evidence. Julian and Alison, walking closely together outside a law office. A kiss shared on a hotel balcony. I replayed the videos over and over. The truth was clear now. My husband and my daughter-in-law had been living a lie. A lie I had been blind to for so long. And the worst part, they weren't just betraying me. They were plotting to take everything I had, my bakery, my life's work. They wanted to leave me with nothing. I couldn't let them get away with it. I knew I had to act, and I had to act fast. That night, Julian came home, slurring his words after a few too many drinks. He didn't even notice as I quietly took his car keys. I had one chance to make them pay for what they'd done. I went to the garage, opened his car, and found exactly what I expected: the tube of lubricant. I took it inside and filled it with industrial superglue. A simple swap, but one that would have consequences. I placed it back exactly where it had been, wiped my hands clean, and waited. The trap was set. The next morning I pretended to leave for a business trip, but instead of getting on a bus, I went to Mrs. Peterson's house across the street. I needed to watch my house, to see the fallout from my plan. Around 10 a.m., I saw them, Julian and Alison, pulling up to my home. They didn't even try to hide it. I knew this was it. I activated the smoke trap from my phone. The stove ignited, sending thick, black smoke billowing from the kitchen. It was a signal to the world that something was wrong. I stood across the street, watching it all unfold. The neighbors gathered, panic setting in. Julian and Alison were trapped, just as I had planned. It wasn't long before the fire department arrived. And my son Daniel, in his fire chief uniform, led the charge. I could hear the commotion from across the street. And soon, the truth was exposed. Julian and Alison caught in the act. The entire neighborhood was watching. Julian and Alison were dragged out of the house, wrapped in sheets, their bodies stuck together in the most humiliating way. In the hospital, they tried to explain, but I was done listening. I handed Julian divorce papers. 40 years of marriage over. Just like that. Alison begged, but I didn't care. Daniel didn't speak. He just left, his heart broken by the betrayal of both his father and his wife. Weeks later, my bakery was thriving. The community supported me, but it wasn't just my business that had flourished. My son moved in, helping with the bakery and healing from the shock of everything he had learned. And for the first time in years, I felt peace. I had lost my marriage, my family, everything I thought was solid. But in the end, I kept what mattered most. I kept my bakery. And I kept myself. The old lies were gone, and now I could move forward. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever been in a situation like this, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. With love and respect.